Welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Welcome back, everyone. We're here today with episode 2503 of the Cabral Concept. We're going to be getting into the latest and greatest topic of vitamin D. It's so important this time of the year that you are getting it either from foods, from supplements, and probably difficult to get it from the sun, to be honest with you, but we've talked about that a little bit last week. I'm following up here today because I want to give you essentially the top 10 foods to be able to get vitamin D from on a daily basis. And if you can't, what else you can do as well. But what I want to share is just a recap. So vitamin D is one of the most essential vitamins in the world. Humans cannot live without it, okay? So it can lead to birth defects, childhood development-based issues, cognitive decline, bone health issues, osteoporosis, cancer, weakened immunity, type 2 diabetes, meaning glucose-based regulation, hormonal dysregulation, heart disease, premature death, and as I mentioned before, potentially Alzheimer's, at least dementia that we know of. So we know it's absolutely crucial. It's one of the 4 fat-soluble vitamins, along with vitamin A, vitamin K, vitamin E, and then there's vitamin D. And so it's essential, as we just said before, mainly known for, okay, if you don't get enough vitamin D, you can get rickets, your bones can become weak, and all these different issues. But honestly, it goes so much deeper because vitamin D is used for essentially every system within the body, and especially, I would say, immunity and hormone-based regulation. Now, here's where it gets a little bit tricky, is that the actual RDA for vitamin D is only around 600 to 800 IUs per day. So that's about 20 or so micrograms. I'll be talking about that in just a moment as well for the RDA. And yeah, I can't believe it. They're still only really recommending 800 IUs, and which is 20 micrograms because they changed from international units to micrograms just a couple years back. So you'll see it written both ways. And I'm going to link up some research from Harvard University here as well. So if you want to go to stephencabral.com/2503, you'll get all of the research and show notes links. And I think Harvard actually is doing a pretty good job at this of trying to be unbiased, because even though the recommended daily recommendation, I don't even want to say allowance because the RDA, but it is what it is 800 IUs. But they're saying, okay, with that the average person from age 51 to 71 is getting about 308 IUs per day. So they're falling well below. But the interesting thing is that people are trying to rely on food where they're only getting on average 140 IUs per day. Now, again, the bare minimum they want is 800. So from food, they're only getting 140. Again, I'll share with you in the foods in just a moment. But the Endocrine Society says most people probably don't need just 800 IUs. They need closer to 2,000 IUs to reach adequate serum levels of vitamin D. And they say the upper limit is probably around 4,000 IUs for adults. We actually recommend close to that 4,000 IUs for most adults, and here's why. When you run your blood work, and I'm going to give you, again, some more stats in just a moment, but when you run your blood work, you want to be above 50 nanomoles per liter. So you want to be, I just typically let people know, you want to be between a 50 and an 80. Somewhere between 50 and 70, right in the 70s is going to be ideal. That means that your immune system, your bones, your hormones, all the systems of your body have enough vitamin D. Now, the problem is this. When you go to your PCP, they're going to say anything above a 30 is actually acceptable. So 30 nanomoles per liter, they're saying it's fine. 31's fine, but it's not. That is suboptimal vitamin D. That means, yes, you're not going to get rickets or your teeth fall out, but what's going to happen is that your immune system isn't where it should be. You might have fertility-based issues, glucose levels, dementia, etc. You're not able to balance inflammation as well. So we need to be careful what is acceptable. Even like if you checked out yesterday's show, what's average, what's okay versus not. Now, even with that, about 75% of African Americans are below the acceptable vitamin D level and over 20% of Caucasians in the United States. Now, I don't know where they got 20% from because in my practice, it's well above that. Meaning if you check someone's vitamin D, they're nowhere near 50 if they are not supplementing or being cognizant of high vitamin D foods. So that's what we're going to move over to next. And then I'll just give you the easy recommendations that we use in our practice. One thing I do want to note is that last week we went over the vitamin D symptoms. So I'm not going to talk about that today. That was episode 2496. I'll link it up though. So if you just head on over to stevencabral.com/2503, I'll link up that show as well to see if you have any of the low vitamin D symptoms, because that's an issue, clearly. So here are the high vitamin D food sources. And as I share this with you, animal-based sources are going to be vitamin D3. And vitamin D2 is going to be from plants and fungi, basically mushrooms, all right? The vitamin D3 is the absorbable form, the most absorbable form. Vitamin D2, which is sometimes added to things like cereal or milk or nut milks, is not as absorbable and it cannot be converted as well in the body. So always opt for natural vitamin D3 whenever possible. Now, if you are following a vegan-based diet, then yes, you're probably going to get some fortified vitamin D in there, but they actually now make a vitamin D3 supplement that's a vegan vitamin D3 supplement that allows you to get the D3. All right, so that is that. So let's get into it now. And I actually am going to give you the exact amount per high vitamin D food. Okay, so number one on the list is wild salmon, and that is going to be about 28 IUs of, 28 micrograms of vitamin D per day. So a pretty good amount. So let's walk back just for 1 second. When you are looking at how many micrograms you should get per day. So if you want to be at the lowest level, I'm recommending lowest level is 25 micrograms. Ideal that I've seen in my practice is going to be between 50 and 100 micrograms of vitamin D per day, which is 2,000 to 4,000 IUs of vitamin D per day. The only way that you know if you're between the 50 and 70 or 50 and 80 is to actually run an at-home vitamin D blood work test. And it's actually not blood work. All you're going to do is a little finger prick like you would for your glucose, and you can get your vitamin D levels. I'll link up the vitamin D test as well. Again, it's just going to be at episode 2503. All right, so wild salmon, and that goes for a lot of fish though. So the fish on that list is sardines, mackerel, and a lot of the fattier fish with the skin on. So all of those do count. I'm going to share with you just a few more. We've got salmon, we've got trout, we have sardines, we've got tilapia, but you have to be really careful with tilapia because most of it's farm raised. And then we have halibut. All of those are actually pretty good. But the only ones that really move the needle are going to be the wild salmon and to a degree trout and sardines. Again, it's always going to be the fattier fish with the skin on. All right, number two on the list, and I want to qualify these as well, is actually mushrooms. So they're crimini mushrooms, chestnut mushrooms, but they need to be exposed to UV light. So this can happen in nature, of course, but maybe they are, maybe they're not, right? I don't know, because a lot of these can be grown without necessarily that. So all you have to do, though, is really leave them in direct sunlight, but it should be bright sunlight, for 20 minutes to be able to absorb that vitamin D. You're getting a less qualified vitamin D in D2, but still, again, like it matters, the ergocalciferol, but we're still getting a decent amount at about 27 micrograms. All right, and there are other types of mushrooms that count as well. Portobello mushrooms, maitake mushrooms, white button mushrooms. Those are the main ones that have higher levels of vitamin D. But again, as you're seeing, this is for one serving, and they're coming in about 25 to 50% of what you need. All right. So just keeping that in mind, you're getting about 25 to 50% so far from these particular food. Fortified milk. That means dairy milk, cow's milk that's been with vitamin D added to it. You're getting about 6.3 micrograms. All right. So not even, you're getting what? Somewhere around 10%, a little bit, maybe just a little bit more than that from fortified milk. This, again, keep this in mind for children as well. If your children drink cow's milk, still not getting the vitamin D that they're going to need as well. Children need about 10 to 20 micrograms per day, about 500 to 800 IUs. And then as their body weight climbs, typically we just use a multiple of around 35 or 36. So again, I typically always say 36 because that's how I learned it. So 36 times your body weight will give you the amount of vitamin D you need per day. If you weigh 100 pounds, well, you need then 3,600 IUs per day, right? So that's how it works. And then for every 1,000 IUs is 25 micrograms. I know it's like, why do they make all the changes? Well, they decided to make the changes, so it is what it is. We need to live with that. So that's the conversion though, and I'll leave that today as well at 2503. All right. The nice thing is that you can get just as much vitamin D from non-dairy milk as from cow's milk. So you can actually get more vitamin D and calcium actually from almond milk than you can oftentimes from cow's milk. Now, I'm not saying to go out and drink almond milk, but you can if you'd like, right? So we don't have to play favorites there. You can decide on what works for you and your family. All right. The next one is going to be fortified cereal. This one I'm bringing up because it's not a recommendation. 2.5 micrograms. It's such a small amount, honestly, in cereal, but a lot of them are claiming get your daily vitamin D from cereal. First of all, it's vitamin D2 that they're adding. It's more synthetic. It's not ideal. It's not even recognized by the body before it has to get converted. Same with the fortified orange juice. You'll see a lot of juices out there, naturally high in vitamin D. It's not, right? It's fortified. They're adding more vitamin D to it. You can see it in the other ingredients. So not a fan, especially with the amount of sugar that you get. You're getting like 20 to 25 grams of sugar per 8-ounce glass of juice. And so eat the fruit, don't drink the juice. That's what it's all about. All right, let's give you a couple more. Eggs. A lot of people say, well, eggs, the egg yolks, higher in vitamin D. It's really not. It's 1.1 micrograms. So you'd have to eat a whole lot of eggs in order to be able to get the vitamin D going there. Pork and meat are another one. They're at about 2.1 micrograms. So what can you really do to get an adequate amount of vitamin D? All right, so you can actually eat cod liver, regular liver, or a wild fish with the skin on. Those are the most predominant ways to actually be able to say, okay, I'm not going to use the sun or I'm not going to use a nutritional supplement in order to get my daily vitamin D, because all the others are just not moving the needle. So a lot of the wild fish, as I mentioned before, the sardines, the trout, the salmon count, the cod liver oil counts. And then you could do some beef liver or cod liver oil. I shouldn't say cod liver oil because it's not as high. You actually need the condensed liver itself, which most people aren't willing to do. So in summary, I just wanted to share with people, it is extremely difficult to get it through food alone. As I just quoted from the research, the average individual is just getting a little over 140 IUs from food alone. So again, it's very, very little. And it makes sense, again, based on what you need to eat. Because really, unless you're eating wild fish with the skin on, you're just not going to be able to get enough. It's very, very difficult. So I just wanted to share that with you. There's no reason why you shouldn't be eating many of these high vitamin D foods. You should, but it's just not going to substitute for you getting a tan, meaning that's how you get your vitamin D. You can't just be in the sun. If you're in the sun, it doesn't mean that you're absorbing any vitamin D. There actually has to be some type of photosynthesis-based change on your skin so that you know that you're actually absorbing the vitamin D. And the other way is through nutritional supplements, a good quality nutritional supplement, ideally a vitamin D3, the calciferol-based form, is how you're going to know that your immune system, your anti-cancer, your anti-dementia, your anti-osteoporosis, all of these things are actually functioning at the highest level. And what I would say is this, eat your normal diet, right? Whatever vitamin D foods you want to include. add some supplementation, 2, 3, or 4,000 IUs per day, which is essentially 50, 75, or 100 micrograms per day. Then baseline where you want to be. Like do that for a month and then run your vitamin D levels saying, okay, this is what I can maintain. Where are my vitamin D levels? Or if you want, what we do in our practice is we run them without changing anything to do with the diet. And they're just getting their normal sun, eating their normal food. Okay, a lot of people come up in their 37. All right, well, that's not ideal, right? So then we say, this is what we're going to do for supplementation. We're going to eat these healthy foods, and then we're going to test 6, 10, 12 weeks later, look at the levels. Okay, now you're 58. That's the ideal for you. We're just going to maintain that, right? So that's the easiest way to do it. Hopefully today's show was helpful. What I'm going to do is list the high vitamin D foods plus the Harvard research and the previous podcast on vitamin D as well. I can link up how to get the vitamin D lab test too. I just can't link up supplementation. The supplements that I use in my practice are at stephencabral.com/shop. Feel free to purchase one for yourself or your family, or just understand what we use and you can use your favorite practice recommendation as well. And that's obviously no problem at all. All right, head on over to stephencabral.com/2503 for all of the show's details and takeaways. Take care, everybody. Have a great rest of the day. Are you ready to heal yourself and then go on to heal others? If so, the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute can help you discover proven functional medicine protocols that blend the best of 7 different healing disciplines from around the world. I personally share with you the exact handouts and protocols I use in my private practice that enable people to get well, lose the weight, and live longer, stronger. I want to pass this information on to the next generation of health coaches, and that is exactly why I created IHP. We are the future of the health coaching industry, and the skills and knowledge you will learn will make you an in-demand certified health coach anywhere in the world. Although we have many medical professionals taking the IHP certifications, no experience is necessary, and half our members have no previous health certifications. At the Integrative Health Practitioner Institute, our motto is a health coach in every home. Our goal is that you take this knowledge and then share it with family, friends, loved ones, your community, or in a practice where you create a career you love and can be proud of. The global IHP community is filled with some of the most kind and caring people in the world, and we can't wait to welcome you into our world soon. For more information or to set up a discovery call with one of our IHP Health Coach graduates, simply head over to integrativehealthpractitioner.org.